Hi everyone, back with another video. I'm here with Ollie, who I think I've known since I've been about 5 years old.
Yes, mate. Long
It's
time, long
been
time.
a very long time. So delighted to get Ollie on. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, mate, it cut out. Sorry.
Brilliant. What a start. Right, so we'll crack straight on and talk very briefly about Southend. How did you rate the performance?
Oh, very poor, very poor. It was a disappointing one. It was another sort of classic case for me of a banana skin that we could see from a mile off, but
Yeah,
was still inevitable to step on and slip up over. And I think not even so much the loss. Like it was just the way we played. Like we lacked so much creativity. I felt incredibly bored very early on. I think we had
yeah,
maybe like 10, 15 minutes because there was a lot of doomsdayism on Twitter, as there always is, of like, this is the worst thing ever. I actually thought the first 10, 15 wasn't too bad, but after that, it was absolutely, absolutely shocking. And it was just classic Walsall. It was such a classic Walsall thing to
yeah.
do, to lose to them. It's such a classic Walsall thing to do, to just not show up against the team that we should be running over. And I think I tweeted out that penalty was like an absolute lifeline, and we just used the line to tie our hands and feet together and drown because it was just
Yeah.
I didn't think we were going to score.
No, I kind of, like you said, the first 10, 15 minutes, I thought we did well. We pressed them so that all they were doing was literally playing hoofball. They were kicking it straight back. Even their goalkeeper was just clearing it straight to Roberts. And you kind of go, right, if we can keep pressing, as soon as they'll make a mistake, they've conceded 25 goals. And then we sort of backed off and let them get a bit on the ball, let them have a couple of chances. And to be honest, it's bad to say, but Roberts was our man of the match. Like, it wasn't just the goal that they scored. He made some good saves throughout the game. And you're like, they've scored 5 all season. And they could have been 3-4 nil up, and I don't think people would have been surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I was highly critical of Roberts for the goal, definitely, and sort of generally throughout the season, I've been quite critical of him. I think there was one in the first half, which was a pretty solid stop, which looked like a banker of a goal for
Yeah,
them. Like, it says something when you can say he played really well, and then also be very disappointed at the same time with
yeah.
the
I,
outcome. And I think
I,
we just
I
don't
can't
we don't
tell.
test the team's goal is enough.
I mean, I know the ball kind of trickled in, but I can't tell whether it was a deflection, whether he was caught flat-footed. Like, because of the angle of it, I don't know how much of a howler it was. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that it was a horrendous deflection.
brave,
But
brave man.
the thing is, though, any goalkeeper in League Two, if you keep shooting and keep forcing, they're going to make a mistake at some point. That's why they're a goalkeeper in League Two. But we let Southend keep having opportunities.
Yeah, I think to your point, it was the game sort of broke down maybe 15, 20-minute mark. It did turn into a bit of hoofball, and it wasn't pretty to watch, but I
No.
think they were the ones who picked up the pieces, and there wasn't many pieces lying around because the quality was very poor,
Yeah,
but
it was
we
real
just
low League
yeah,
Two.
we just didn't seem to string anything together. And I always think when people say, "Oh, this is so League Two," as an insult, I do need to switch my head to be like, we are a League Two
Yeah,
side. This is what you've got to expect. But you do, when you see them have those sort of 10, 15, 20-minute spells in other games where we pass it quite well and look quite good, and we joke we're going to win the league and all this stuff. It's just so infuriating that happens so infrequently. Like the only
yeah.
consistent thing is the inconsistency in the performance, and it's Southend was a perfect sort of microcosm of the life of a Walsall fan, I think.
Yeah. The I think the thing that's frustrating is that at times we can play some not the last couple of games, but there's some phases of play that you look and you go, oh wow, that's like when everyone's sort of reading each other's game, and you've got, for me, when Holden's in the middle and kind of pulling the strings and passing it around, and then you've got Guthrie behind him that's doing the same thing. I feel that when those two are on their game, we look really good, and we look like a good footballing team. But the problem is there's only glimpses of that. And you kind of feel that if we had that for like a whole half, then we'd be like, wow, we're brilliant. But the problem is we're getting it like for 5 minutes and then we're sitting back for 10 or 15 and then having another go for 5 minutes. And it's just, I don't know, I feel that that's the thing. If there wasn't any sort of optimism about our play, then it'd just be like, oh, we're rubbish. But the thing is, it's like, oh, we can be rubbish, but we can also be really good at the same time.
Yeah, massively so. And I think the other thing that's really frustrating when we do have those spells is that's never when we seem to score the goals. Like, we have these times where we're on top, and like you said, the passing and the movement, I can't remember. I was just looking at the fixtures here. I can't remember if it was when we beat Crawley or whether it was the 0-0 even with Exeter. But there was some times where I was watching and thinking, this is really good, but
yeah,
you've got to get the ball in the net, because it's classic football adage. I don't want to come with loads of cliches, but you dominate and don't score. Next thing you know, they're at the other end and they're going to score. And I think the frustrating thing for me is even when we have those really nice interchanges of passes, like, I feel like we never like slip our strikers in one-on-one. There's never like clear-cut chances. The goals always seem to come from, crosses or almost out of nowhere or counter-attacking, which is fine, but you need to be able to put the ball in the net when you're creating and dominating the play.
Yeah. There's not. I can't really think of any goals where we've really carved open a team where we've left them completely for dead. Obviously, like the Nurse one against Bradford was more of a wonder strike, than anything else. But a lot of them, like you said, they've either we had a couple of penalties, a couple of headers, kind of balls in the box that have kind of knocked around, and then it's ended to someone who's got like half a chance. There's nothing that you kind of go, oh yeah, that through ball completely took out the defence and we were through, which is a concern.
Yeah, there was one who played that really sexy reverse through ball. I can't remember who scored, who it was against now. I can't remember if it was Holden who played it or Lavery who played it and then finished it.
Oh, was that the one where Holden was on the right, played it to Lavery, cut in?
Yeah, that was a nice goal.
Oh no, I do know that. It was against Leyton Orient, wasn't it? I didn't bring it up. Right, so going on, who in the last sort of 4 or 5 games have you been impressed with? Who have you kind of expect more from?
Yeah, I think for me, definitely player of the season so far is Elijah. I think Adebayo, he went on that little spree of popping up with some goals. But even more importantly for me, some of his defensive work rate from the front has been phenomenal. I can't remember, I think it was when we were 1-0 up, I saw him making tackles like down by our own corner flag. He seemed to be all over the shop and really, really putting himself about. And I think the thing that must be so frustrating for him is when we have those patches of play that we were talking about where it seems to break down, all we're doing is hoofing it vaguely in his direction and sort of saying, go after that, see what you can do with that.
And he seems to be on the wings rather than in the middle.
Yeah, it must be so frustrating for him because he's shown that he can score goals. When he's had it at his feet, I think last season he seemed to look sometimes a little bit Bambi on ice when he was running, but I think his hold-up play has been a little bit better this year. He's been able to make some runs with the ball, bring other people into play. And when he does that, it's really effective. But when he's just got to contest 60-yard hoof balls from Dan Scarr for 45 minutes, you're not going to get the best from him. So for me, he's been really impressive.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was now, and I'm sorry for whoever tweeted it, but it was someone said they just wanted to put an arm around him after the penalty, and you could see that he'd been ill. He's not really had the service, but has still been kind of praised after games in the last couple of weeks. And I kind of felt that he's maybe not 100% after whatever kind of illness he had. And you kind of felt that he just needed a goal. I don't even think he'd had a shot before that I can think of. And you just think, it's frustrating because you're like, come on. He did absolutely leather that.
Yeah. Did you think he was going to score? Because I, in my head, I said to Kate when I was watching, I was like, whoever takes it, like, I just don't see this going in.
No, but one thing I don't understand is Guthrie never takes penalties. Yet you think he's the one, like him and Holden are probably the best two set pieces from set pieces, and yet I don't know. I didn't think we were going to score it. It kind of went over the bar, and hit the bar and went over, and I just went, yeah, of course.
Yeah,
like, of course.
Obviously.
Yeah. I actually missed Bates getting sent off because I had to go drive to work for the evening. And as soon as Southend scored, I kind of slammed the laptop shut and was like, right, I'm going to work. Got there and had a text being like, did you see you had a player sent off? And I was like, great.
Oh, mate. Yeah. So, yeah, I think he's been impressive, to be honest. And then I think, Rory's been good. He's really sort of been he's been doing, if McDonald could lift his level this season to what Rory had been doing, I think we'd be creating a lot more chances. Yeah, I think he's put himself about, he's been very busy, he's been, looks to go forward with the ball more often than not, which I think we sometimes lack when we have Bates, Kinsella, Sinclair. If there's no Guthrie in that mix, there's a lot of sort of defensive energy or holding play, which I think has got a place, but I think Rory really drives us forward when he can, and I think he's had a pretty stellar start to the season as well.
Yeah, I think the criticism of him playing out wide, it's tough because I think out of every player in our squad to get injured, Josh Gordon was the biggest player that could have got injured.
Yeah.
Because I know he's not a right winger, but when he plays on the right wing, he also becomes a striker. The way that he has that role, he is wide, but because of his pace, if the ball's on the other wing, he goes up top to support the striker. And it's something that he really kind of started to nail down at the back end of last season. And although he might not score as many, he's involved in a lot of goals from that. So for him to go, you then well, who's our right winger? And I've got to admit, I think Holden, compared to what he was like last season in the right wing role, he's been much better in it this season. But he's just so good in that number 10 role. It's just the fact that we can't really get him there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a tough one for him, and I think when a lot of burden's been put on his shoulders because there's not been too much creativity from anywhere else. I think particularly the last game, and I think Wes seems to have run out of ideas. He seems to do the same drag, step over, like he seems to have lost a bit of. Either he's been found out, and defenders, we remember playing him before or have done their research on him, know what he's going to do, but just hasn't quite come off this year the way it has last year. Maybe he needs a goal to just get that back, or a really solid assist. But
I think as well, what hasn't helped Wes either is that he seems to combine well with Nurse, and between them, when they've linked up, one of them has got an assist. Like Nurse has chipped in with a couple from when Wes has played. Like they've allowed each other to play their game. So for Nurse to then get injured as well, you're like, come on.
Okay.
Because I don't think last season Jules at left back ever really worked with Wes. They didn't really combine going forward that well. Whereas Nurse and Wes seemed to just know what each other was going to do.
Yeah.
But Wes has been the biggest disappointment for me. It's that thing of you want him on the pitch and you feel that we have to play him because at some point he will have a moment of magic.
100%. I think that's the perfect summary of it, and that's the problem. He's a bit like when, Ozzy didn't have too many bad days for us, but even when he was having a bad day, you were like, well, we can't take him off because he could ping it in from fucking 40 yards. He could score from anywhere. He can assist from anywhere. He can dictate the play, and even on his off day, he could be better than anyone on the pitch. And I think,
I remember when we got absolutely hammered by Bolton, and 4-1, but he scored from the halfway line, and you're like, But not saying that Wes is that at all, but you look at the wonder goal he scored against Crawley last season, and that was a real dire game of football, and we didn't really do much going forward. And then he kind of just has a run, sees a bit of space, shoots and scores top corner, and you're like, where's that come from?
Yeah.
Apart from Wes, there's no one that I really feel has like underperformed. The only other player that I think has really impressed is Cam Norman.
100%. Yeah, he was my third one for sort of player of the year so far. I think it's a weird one having like the right back in that mix when you look at sort of the results we've had, but I think defensively there's been individual errors that have cost us, but on that unbeaten run or whatever people want to categorize it as, and even the last few games when we haven't played well defensively, he still personally I feel like has performed. And one thing I love, like he seems to win every header he wants to go up for. He's really good in the air. He's quite composed when he gets the ball at the back as well.
He's quite tall for a fullback.
Very tall.
He's and I mean he's something that I kind of, in between sort of when last season ended, I was looking at kind of players and when the contracts came up, and he didn't play that many games last season. It was only like 15 in all competitions. Whereas I feel that this season he's had a run, he's had a spell where he's in the team more than he's not. And I think it's really helped.
Massively. I think he's definitely established himself in that role. And when we got him, was it from Oxford or Cambridge? Oxford, we got him?
Oxford.
Yeah. When he came over, I remember, because one of my friends from uni is a big Oxford fan, and he was gutted because he thought he looked like quite a young, decent prospect. And I think for that, half season, and like I said, last season, not playing too much, I wasn't convinced that he was necessarily at like the level we wanted. But yeah, I think having that run in the team and showing that he can defend and get forward and win balls in the air, yeah, I think he's been solid, and I think he secured that right back spot now. I don't know who you would swap him with.
I mean, last season, if there was a role that you went, out of the players we've got, we need a new player. Like I think both Facey and Norman, you'd go, we could get better. Where now I'd more than happy have Norman stay longer.
Definitely.
It's funny when we look back to sort of this time last season, and you go, you wouldn't have predicted that early on the three players of the season would be Adebayo, Holden, and Norman.
Yeah. It shows, doesn't it? And it shows that you have to commit to some of these players. It's quite easy to write people off, and I think I think that's one of the things as a fan base, not just us, like all football fans. You want impact straight away, but I think a little bit of patience in the long run is what eventually gets you where you are. And I think that helped with our unbeaten run. I know people started mocking it because there was a lot of draws and we weren't playing too well, but I felt like it gave us a bit of purpose and a bit of momentum. And I think having that bit of patience can pay dividends. But then obviously once we lost, and then the last performances have been pretty poor, it's sort of starting to look like a lot of nothing. I think Dan did a good tweet. It was something like, was it 11 games unbeaten? It was something like 11 games unbeaten suddenly becomes like 2 wins in 12 or something.
Yeah.
Which is quite a good alternate way of looking at it. But
or like I think it was after the loss, and it might have been down. It might have been that one where it was sort of how many games unbeaten, but then how many without a win.
Yeah.
And it was like in the space of one game, and you're like, oh yeah. So Darrell Clarke has come under a lot of criticism this week. There's been quite a debate in the fan base of, is he the right man for the job? Are we better off looking elsewhere? What do you kind of feel? What's your thoughts on Darrell as our manager?
Yeah, definitely right man for the job for me. I'll put my flag in the ground for Darrell and take the heat. I think for me, we've come into this situation where we hired him. He was put in this sort of like put on this pedestal, which he didn't ask to be put on, but people were very happy with him. People seemed to want him to be the best person for the job at the time. We all knew that it was going to be we wanted that bounce back. Of course we did. We wanted that straight back to the top. But also people were saying, we're quite happy for a consolidation year, which is what we got. Unfortunately, obviously we didn't really press last season in terms of trying to go up. And I think to me it would just be with Pomlik coming in and the phase that we're in as a club and looking to rebuild. For me, even though he's had a decent chunk of time with us, it would still be a rash decision to get rid of him. The odd bad performance here and there is expected. It has been dross. It's been absolutely dross. I won't pretend that some of the games haven't been absolutely terrible to watch. But, if you zoom out just a little bit, we're 3 points off the playoffs. Maybe call it 4 points because I think 6 and 7 have got the game in hand. So one of them might get a point. But we're within touching distance of the playoffs. And with League Two and League One, anyone can beat anyone. You've just got to put a bit of a run together and things change very quickly. And I think when that goes against you, you want to jump on the manager and then you look at the performances and you think, something needs to change. But we've been bouncing around and changing managers every year and a half, 2 years or whatever, or trying to do something different like that for a long time when it comes to wanting an impact change. It just hasn't really come. So to me, I see no benefit in getting rid of him at the moment. I think some of the criticism of him as a manager is unwarranted. Some of the performances definitely warrant criticism. But tactically, another one. Sorry, I'm ranting there.
No, go for it.
One thing that I also think that we need to take into context is every football league club is basically playing Saturday, Tuesday for the entirety of this season. And every week when the lineup comes out at 2 p.m, I see people bombarding him with criticism before we've kicked a ball, before we've done anything. And I just think we're not going to get through this season putting out the same 11 week in, week out. It's just not going to happen. It's going to need some changes. He's going to get it wrong sometimes, but I think he's going to come good. And, we were all joking around with our unbeaten run. We're going to piss the league, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen, but I do think he's going to get it together. And I think, if we can just string together some wins from somewhere without sounding too desperate there, but if we can string a few wins together, I do think we're going to be in the mix come the end of the season. And, blessing in disguise being out of the cups, which I hate. I hate our cup form. It's been terrible for years and it's embarrassing when we're out the cups. But we've got to focus now. We've got the league. Let's finish in that top 7 spot and let's just see what happens.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing is I didn't say this under Whitney or Keats, but I think you need to give managers time. And with Whitney and Keats and O'Driscoll, let's not forget that when we all wanted him in, but it was clear it wasn't right. The players weren't improving. We didn't have any real kind of base or tactical kind of knowledge. It just seemed like, right, let's throw these players out. I know the last few games haven't been good, but you look at players like Holden, you look at Adebayo, you look at Norman, they have improved. And I think that's the thing. We are improving. We just can't get the ball in the back of the net, which I know is a complete contrast. But there are signs there that he is the right man for the job. The fact that fans are talking kind of, oh, let's get rid of him, all of this. I know it was a lot of draws, but this is only our second loss of the season. If you take out cup games, which, to be honest, I think we've also been a bit unlucky that we've not really had any. We haven't had helpful cup ties.
No.
Like having, I know everyone moans about it, but having 2 League One teams in the EFL Trophy kind of puts a halt to that. And then the FA Cup and League Cup having teams above, again, doesn't really help us. But in the league, we haven't looked bad, apart from really bad on Saturday. I'm nervous about the next 2 games because they are against big teams. And then we've got Stevenage, which is a classic. We'll get 2 decent-ish results against Cheltenham and Newport and then completely mess it up against Stevenage.
We're going to go 6 points next 2 games, and then we're going to lose 4-0 to Stevenage.
You know what? I'd take the 6 points out of the next 3. So it don't matter who they come from. But I like Darrell. I think he's improved the club. He's improved the atmosphere. The players are happy under him, which when you look at what happened under Keats and then O'Connor and the relegation and all of that farce that went on, he's stabilised us, which at the moment I think is a good thing.
Yeah, massively. And I think to your point there, second loss in the league. I think it's only the top 2 who lost as many games as us. Like if we'd managed to just convert a couple of those draws, we would be right up there. But I think this next 2 fixtures, like you said, will be a real test of, let's forget Saturday because it was let's call it a write-off. But the next 2 games, like how tough are we to beat against some of the better teams in the league? Because I think they've established themselves now as the real good ones. The problem with the South End is every team who does terrible has one of those games where they just sneak the win. And we fell victim to be that one. I think if we get turned over by Cheltenham, and then if we get turned over by Newport, maybe we need to have a little redress of, right, okay, where do we really sit compared to the better teams in this league?
Yeah.
I could see us winning both. And I know that people might say I'm living in a dreamland, but we could just win both of them. That's just the way that this league is and the way that Walsall are. So you never know.
I mean, you look at the teams that are kind of up there. I mean, I haven't looked at the league table actually before this, but Exeter are doing well. We played out a very boring 0-0, but we didn't get beaten, which was important. I think I'd have always taken a draw against Exeter. Colchester, I think, are up there or will be up there. Again, we picked up a draw. And the only other one, Cambridge, which we gave away 2 stupid penalties. So you kind of feel, well, what? Apart from that, I don't think they had a shot on target. And Forest Green, I mean, you look at who's in the top at the moment. Colchester in the playoffs. Forest Green, I know we got battered, but we somehow got a point. And Exeter, it is the teams below us that have been our kind of mixed bag more so, I feel. With Mansfield, with Southend, it's sort of, they're the games that we really do need to be picking up the points from. And we don't, and we didn't last season. We haven't for the last 27 years of being a Walsall fan. We've not done it. Like we always seem to struggle.
Yeah, it's a trend, and I think the next 4 days are big. I think if we lose them both, to your point about like some of the fan reaction, particularly on like the Facebook groups, has been quite drastic.
No idea what you could possibly be referring to.
But I think that will turn up the heat if we more so probably if we don't play well. I think if we lose games, there's that old thing people sometimes say, as long as we play well, I don't mind if we lose, but I'd prefer the win. I remember when we got that point away at Forest Green and everyone was slating the performance. They were furious, and I was just like, look, we've just played like absolute dross and come away with a point. I'm happy as Larry.
And actually, the goal we scored was, with our only shot, was actually a bloody good goal.
It's a nice goal, yeah.
I think I'd take a win and a loss in the next 2, because I feel that, obviously I'd love to win both, but they are 2 teams that are in form and tough teams. I mean, I think
to your point, looking as far ahead as Stevenage, I think, like you said, six from the next 3 would be solid return.
Yeah, and we know that if that's the case, that it definitely will be the next 2 and not. But that's the thing, though. You kind of, it's something that we were saying all along. We'd sacrifice the unbeaten run for win one, lose one, win one, lose one, because your points return is better. And I think if we can scrape a win in the next 2, then I haven't seen much of Cheltenham. I've seen a bit of Newport, and they look okay. I think they're the physical Newport, but they've got a bit more skill about them this season, which is why they're further up the league.
Yeah. No, I've not seen too much of them either, but I can see. I mean, they've got very similar records in terms of like goals for, goals against. So that I don't think they're immune to being scored upon. But I think when we fall behind, particularly this season, I've sort of felt a bit like, because I'm so conscious that we're not creating chances. I think if we can nick the first goal in these games, it will give us a bit of a boost. But who knows?
Yeah. So I think that kind of covers us for the next sort of looking forward. But what would you like the lineup and formation to be on Saturday? Because this is obviously a bone of contention that Darrell does change the lineups, does change. So I believe from what I've read and heard that Nurse and Clarke might be back in the squad, which is as good as we're going to get. But let's go with them being fit. Who would you like to see starting?
Neither of those two, I'm going to say to start with. I'm going to say not because he's actually no, that's not true. I will start Nurse if he's fit. I'll start Nurse because I think he's played well. I think we need to make sure that anyone starting this game is fit because it's going to be a bit of a slog. I don't think maybe Cochrane Mollett showed enough. So yeah, well, I'll start Nurse, but I think in goal for me, big change would be Rose. I'd give Rose a game. I think he deserves it. I always try and stay positive because the social media stuff always nags on me when it's too negative. But for me, Roberts he's had enough chances to show himself. He makes some good saves, but I think Rose has shown that he can make some good saves as well. So I'd give Rose a start. I'd go with Norman, Scar and Jules, which I think started the last game.
Yeah, before you quickly move on, I think the thing with Roberts is we know exactly what we're going to get from him. I'd like to see a bit more of Rose to kind of give him 5 games to go, we want to see exactly what you can do. If he has a complete blunder, go, that's fine. You've got 5 games in the league just to have a run. Yeah, that's what I'd like to see that.
And I think he showed that, he showed in that cup game that he's got some, he made a couple of decent saves, and I can't honestly say I remember him obviously starting or playing a few games that I watched last season in person, but I don't remember too much of like, oh, we did amazing or whatever. But I think, like you said, we know what we're going to get with Robbo, so let's maybe give him a rest and some time to reflect and maybe get Rose in there. I think for me then, back four, I'll put Nurse in. I'll put Nurse in at left back, and then I'll stick with the 3 that started on Saturday, Norman, Scar and Jules. I think Jules has played really well. He's been another one who's been quite versatile for us since we got him last year. And maybe deserved a shout actually when we were talking about good performers. I don't think he's put a foot wrong. But just based on his shape and his stature and his structure, I think he works better as a centre-back than a left-back. So
yeah, although I can see him playing on the left against Newport for some reason.
Possibly.
Just to have a bit of extra physicality in the team. I can see that.
Yeah. But then, so Scar also playing relatively well, I think. Norman, as we've touched on, playing really well. So I think solid back 4. I think for me, then I'm sort of going with a 4 in the middle, but more of a sort of diamond, if you like, than a flat 4.
Yeah.
I think McDonald, you got to start him because I think, like we've said, despite the frustration, he has got that bit of ability about him. I'll stick Holden out on the left with the opportunities, maybe bring him inside later in the game. And then I'll say Guthrie and Kinsella in the middle for me. But Kinsella just sitting and holding it and letting Guthrie try and be like that driving force forward.
Yeah.
And then I'm starting Adebayo and Scrimshaw because I think he deserves 90 minutes.
I think he's
busy. With him, and if he maybe sits behind Adebayo so he can maybe slot in to support the midfield where he needs, that could help. Possibly a bit too ambitious against the better team. I'm sure Darrell will probably line up a bit more defensively, but for me, I think if we're going to win games, we've got to score goals. I think that gives us a few options of getting something out of it.
Yeah, I saw that Cheltenham play a 3-5-2, And I'm wondering whether Darrell will match that up and we'll try and do the same, which I'd rather not. But if we are, then get Nurse at left wing back and play Holden in the midfield to kind of be that attacking one of the three is how I'd, if he's playing that. But I would go with a 4-2-3-1. I think it's the formation we've looked best in. When we've played well, it seems to be in that formation. And I'd have the same back four. I'd play Rose and goal, have the same midfield two, and then I would play McDonald on the left. I would play Holden in the middle, and I have no idea who I'd play on the right wing. But I'd like to say that I'd give Osadibi a chance there. But
I think he looks good.
He looks good, but he also looks incredibly frustrating at times. Like, you kind of just think it's the same thing with Wes. Like, just play the simple pass.
Yeah.
And then I'd go with Adebayo up top.
Interesting. Well, let's see. I bet it's going to be much more defensive than both of us probably anticipate. But
well, look, I've been doing quite well with 4-3-3 with a holding midfielder on Football Manager at the moment. So signed Pochettino's son on loan, as you do for Walsall. Yeah. Anyway, Ollie, cheers for coming on. No doubt when the lineup's completely different, I'll tweet you and be like, any negativity here, or you?
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Nice one.